I dropped the main SD card that had the audio and like the main camera on it on the subway platform at Union Square.
I used to have a sandwich Instagram that I would review sandwich spots.
Great.
I'm very pro pitch.
Yeah.
You know, maybe at the afters, hold on to it.
Trash Humpers is sitting at a 4.5 out of 5 stars on my Letterboxd right now.
I just need a beat right now. I just wanna feel a beat. Need a beat right now. I just wanna hear a beat. Need a beat right now. I just wanna feel a beat. Need a beat right now.
All right. I am here in Manhattan with two very, very dear friends and lovely, lovely gentlemen who I've gotten to know over the last couple of years in New York. This is Erez and Cal of Raw Cuts. I guess before we get into it, there's some juice to be had, as is custom. I will start with this wine that I procured. Actually, the story is kind of interesting with this wine. So this is an orange wine, as you can obviously tell, from Oregon. It was a gift that someone brought to my home for me. Mm-hmm. And it felt kind of right because you guys, you know, your thing is kind of sharing people's gifts with the world. So I felt like, you know, what better opportunity to share this gift.
You are a true gift, James. Thank you.
So yeah, this is some juice for you. And then
thank you.
I made a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm. Should we show the audience?
Yes.
Beautiful.
I made this cup of coffee.
Small.
This is the coffee. It's amazing coffee roaster from the Bay Area. It is a coffee from Colombia, where I've kind of spent some time working on coffee farms and stuff. I actually have a whole background in coffee and coffee roasting and in wine. So that's kind of part of this whole thing.
We don't even need to talk anymore. What do you mean? You have a background in roasting coffee in Colombia?
We need a whole separate pot.
I've roasted coffee for many years. That was my whole thing, kind of before music.
Really?
I worked at a coffee importer. Was like a coffee nerd starting from when I was like 16.
Wow.
It's kind of been like my thing. So that's like, you know, wine. I was working at like a wine focused restaurant.
Well, I knew about the wine.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So like, you know, a part of this podcast is very much just like figuring out what people normally like to drink. And that could include beer too.
Yeah.
Like, and then getting to showcase it and kind of make it.
I thought we were going to have Capri Suns. This is nicer.
What a gift.
Cheers,
well, thank
guys.
you. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks for having us. Whoa.
Oh, no, you're good.
Excited to get into it.
Yes.
Big little fair.
Delightful.
That was actually a really cool kind of like local wine producer fair that my friend puts on.
Is this a Neil thing?
No, this is a Neil thing, and it's
There it
so
is, the
perfectly
juice.
on brand. So
Yeah, there you go.
it just
Right, I remember that
too
they
good.
had the custom glasses with the red text.
Yeah,
I-
no,
I-
it
it's
is too good.
Yeah, we talked about doing a collab actually a long time ago.
I
With
know.
the juice.
How often?
So-
I feel like all of us are in the world of like
Mhm.
people having these like ideas for things.
Mhm.
And, you know, I feel like the club is the perfect place where these things happen, where it's just like, how about we do this? Or what?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
that's the environment where that happens. Like, how often do you have people like coming up to you with ideas for things? And
Or like pitching us.
yeah, pitching you guys for just like, whether it's like collabs or
Yeah.
things, or does that happen just like all the time now?
Quite a bit. It's usually the same couple hits. Some of them are good ideas. Some of them are ideas that we've had and, you know, can have a conversation about, but sometimes it goes a little off the rails for sure.
Yeah, I think also it kind of depends how the pitch comes in.
Yeah.
Because like if it's a DM, it's probably not gonna be like if it's a DM to my personal, unfortunately I can usually tell that it's probably not gonna be. Or I think if it's an email or if it's someone that like I get connected with on my phone or calls me, I'm taking those a lot more seriously. But I mean, I think we're actually quite blessed. I mean, I feel like in the last 6 to 9 months, like what people want to work on together has really like been exciting to be a part of these even the fact that people would want to reach out and notice what we're doing on these kind of different scales. That is, I think, one of the most exciting things I think that's happening now is like kind of being noticed and people wanting to take a look inside and work on things together.
Yeah. And when it comes to like ideas from agents and artists and like teams that we realistically would want to work with and want to pursue. I actually think in the past couple of weeks, we've had the kind of exciting version of this, which is someone that we really would want to work with, someone whose ideas we're definitely interested in, coming forward with like very big, borderline impossible ideas.
Mhm.
And then we're actually in a spot where instead of feeling like we're coming at you hot with like some big thing and it's like a whole ordeal, we actually get to like wind it back a little bit into the realm of reality and then kind of pitch something that actually works and kind of feed off of that. And that's actually happened a couple times in the past like week or two, weirdly. So I think that version of it hits a little harder than like, I think maybe what you were referring to, which is like coked out dude in the club. Like, yo, bro,
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
telling you,
say.
let's go in on a club, man. Let's start a venue right now.
pitches,
No, exactly.
pitches at the afters.
Yeah.
I'd say it's about a 0.01% hit rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there's obviously going to be like zero follow through on
Yeah.
on anything there.
But I honestly, I do respect it though, because like that's how we got where we are is just constantly asking and pitching and getting on people's radar. So, you know, I always invite people to reach out and to try, like, even if you've met me or us or a familiar or not, like, you never know who's going to respond to the DM or who's going to give you a shot or give you a phone call or whatever. And a lot of these people too, that you maybe you pitch to them and the timing isn't right, but then you've started the conversation and then it can always swing around later. So I'm very pro pitch.
Yeah.
You know, maybe at the afters, hold on to it.
You would have been great in tech sales, I think. You're kind of describing a
Yeah, well, I'm very pro that kind of energy.
Yeah.
Like just get out there, you know, because like you might get a no, you might get ignored, but you also might get a yes,
Exactly.
and then you never know where those yeses go.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of like gestured to this, but it sounds like that kind of mentality was like very much contributed to like getting Rock Huts off the ground. Like what, I mean, I'm sure like, you know, a lot of these people won't really be aware of like what that journey has like looked like. I'm sure now it's like, I feel like you see Rock Huts, like if you follow good dance music, like at this point you will have seen it. There'll be an artist that you like that has been on there. You will have seen it's kind of everywhere now. But it wasn't that way when I moved to New York.
No.
Like I'm trying to think back to like I forget if it was like Pinto's one. It was like there was a first Rock Hut I saw because it was like a friend of mine or someone, some like contemporary. And I was like, whatever this looks cool. Like this seems like some awesome like underground New York thing. But I guess, yeah, that was a long-winded way to ask, like, what was the foundation? Like, how did you get your first opportunities? Like, what did that look like?
It's a good question.
There's been a few eras, I think, of what this has been. I'd say like really kind of like three distinct eras. The first, I think, Erez is better to describe, which is kind of that early segment that you're referring to when it was more our friends and local acts and like kind of sussing out what the ethos was and kind of figuring out the whole thing.
Like, what was the inspiration behind
Yeah.
that, even in the first place?
Well, so I was DJing and throwing parties around New York for probably like a year or so, year and a half under a different brand. Yeah. So under a different brand, Say Yes. So I had a residency at TBA. I did a
RIP.
couple, oh my God, the best. And I did a couple nights at Elsewhere. I did a House of Yes thing. And then I like co-promoted on like a Superior Ingredients. And I was kind of rising the ranks as like a local promoter. And as I kind of got to what at that point I thought was kind of like the pinnacle of like, okay, I've done House of Yes, I've done Elsewhere, I've done Superior, even though my slot at Superior was like just moving tickets for a different promoter, but I still counted it. I kind of realized that like what I was doing and that party, even though I loved doing those and I learned a lot, I felt like it wasn't really adding anything different or it wasn't really something new. And I saw in those like sort of that pinnacle moment, let's call it, like it was New Year's Superior Ingredient. I kind of felt like the ceiling was actually quite low, that like the ceiling of that route was going to be maybe like an avant-garde or Mirage play also RIP. Um,
Yeah, geez.
but I was like, this is not really like, I love it and I love the people, but it wasn't different enough. It wasn't like additive to the culture. And I felt like it also wasn't really like value driven. And I'm just in many aspects of my life trying to make things intentional and like mission oriented. And so it's kind of a long-winded background, but all that thinking, I had a different partner at the time, and we formed this, what at the time was sort of a collab between Say Yes and his party, which was these like small, intimate studio sessions. And we thought like, okay, maybe let's not do like the traditional clubs, but something outside of the box, something that can be about just like your friends and the music and this moment that feels just completely different. And so that's kind of where it was born. And the recording aspect didn't even really have to do like that wasn't, we didn't think, okay, let's do recorded sets. It just so happened that the studio that we were looking at was fitted with cameras, that it was actually made to be like a COVID streaming business was like their thing during the pandemic. And so for the party, they were like, for an extra, whatever it was, $200, we could just turn on the cameras and you'll get the sets at the end of the night. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And after the first one, we were like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And that we did a second and a third, and then we kind of realized that like, okay, there's kind of something here, like a magic of really smaller. I mean, it was like 40 cap, 50 cap, or something like that. A magic of like a small room where the booth was completely 360. It was free flow. It was like, it felt like a house party. Like it felt like something so different, even from like TBA, which is like an intimate space, which like that itself is also very like community, just like anyone goes beyond the booth. And like this felt like a party in someone's basement or something. And then that magic kind of carried through and started getting a bit of local momentum, as much as that kind of means, because it was still just like our friends and friends of friends that were coming, up until we had to leave the studio. But I think we probably did like 6 shows or 7.
Yeah, something like that.
Are you thinking phase 2 started?
I was thinking
When-
that's like the epilogue or the prologue.
That's actually
That's
true,
it.
because
Yeah.
you know what? It wasn't even called Raw Cuts then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think of that as like the prologue. That's when we got connected.
Just like you were kind of part of that scene a bit.
Well,
Well, you ready for this?
Let me intro this
Yeah.
because from my point of view, so we did the first show, and I don't even think we had a photographer for the first show. It was like super bare bones. It was just like literally like 40 people in a room. And then for the second show, I was like, yo, let me get a photographer. And I had like a whole list of guys that I would hire for like my TBA parties and whatever, but no one was available. So this guy I was reaching out to my network, and this guy was like, yo, like you should hire this dude. He's like really sick. I'll send you his profile. And it was Shanty Main. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, this guy looks kind of legit.
Mind you, I had never met this guy. This guy was the new roommate of my buddy from high school, who also is not in the scene at all, and just obviously knew that I was a photographer. And I had pretty recently just moved to Brooklyn at that point as well.
Well, he swore by you.
Yeah, yeah, which is epic because I'd never met him. We DM'd like once about
Yeah.
me shooting for him.
So I hire Cal, and he's like buzzing around during the party, whatever. I don't really think much of it. And then he sends me the deliverable, like the photos from the party. And I'm like, Jesus, these people look like gods, like Greek god, like all the lighting and shit. I was like, I have not seen photos like it looked cinematic. And I was like, okay, you're the guy. Like
Yeah.
you're hired. Like, and then after that, it was like, you're doing all the parties.
Yeah,
And then, so that was the prelogue or the prologue.
prologue.
Prelogue.
And then there was
Pre-log.
Yeah. Then there was kind of that first year of it being raw cuts. Where at that point we'd left that little studio. We determined like this is going to be a recorded thing. And that was really kind of where my role was coming in from the start, was as the guy who was doing the multicam recordings and the lighting and everything that went into making it like a recorded media thing. I think that's
Which
the era
was the
that,
vision from that point on.
yeah, 100%. And I think we saw after the first one that was a huge part of it.
You're kind of forced into that vision.
Yeah,
Because recorded sets had become a part of it in
right.
this studio. And then the studio, we were informed when we finally launched it under Raw Cuts, we started a whole new brand. It was going to be so exciting, put a lot of thought into it. The studio, it's like literally the day after we announced it, calls me like, hey, that party that you just announced, not going to happen. We got water damage upstairs. We got to gut the whole fucking place. I was like, the party will happen. This is not going to happen at your place. And so we go around looking at a bunch of spots. And at that point, that's when I called Cal and I was like, yo, I know you've been taking these fire photos, but I need some fire multicam. We gotta, because the artists are expecting recorded sets and now our brand is recorded sets.
Which I'd never done, by the way.
You had never done?
Not in this setting. I mean,
had you been doing commercial at that point?
Yeah. So like at that point, I was my day job, if you will, was I was the in-house director of photography for Volvo cars.
Okay, I knew it was a car company.
Which,
I was
by the way,
Toyota, but it was Volvo. I was
cracking me up because we had a podcast studio there, had this exact same paneling, and I walked in here and I almost did something.
International standard.
100%. But I was doing that, which was also nice because I hope no one there listens to this, but I would use all of their cameras and all of their gear. It was the only way that we were able to afford to run it in the early ones. But you know, had access to all this gear and like was very, very, very fluent with imagery and like, you know, as a cinematographer and photographer at that point. But in terms of doing like multicam in the club, there's a lot of weird challenges. People don't realize this, but there's a lot of, I think when we get hired to do videography and things outside of Raw Cuts, people think, oh, we'll just plug these guys in and it'll look like that. It'll be like that. No, there's like 10 extra steps that go into even making it a fraction of what that is, because you need to make decisions around everything from the layout of the room to especially the way it's lit to the way that you're, you know, inviting the space around the booth for it to feel like that at all, because otherwise you can't, you know, if there's no depth behind the booth, oh, the booth is in the corner, it's not going to look like that, it's not going to feel like that, it's going to feel cheaper. Oh, you know, the lighting is like this up lighting, or oh, the camera needs to be off on the side, it can't be centered.
I've been there for the hour before, and I know you're there many hours before that, but even seeing the decisions that go into the 30 hour before you open the door, I mean, it's like there's so much to consider.
And that's what goes into making it look right, but it's also kind of what goes into making it feel right. And that was, you know, during that first year, a big part of what we were sorting out. Even the first Raw Cuts party that you played with Harry Romero.
Yeah.
I was the last time I think that I made a crucial error, which was in my head. I was like, we shouldn't have club lighting, like dynamic lighting, because it's going to fuck up the video. Like it's going to, by doing that, it's not cinema light, you know, they're not film lights, they're not high enough rated for it to look right. And I remember after that one being like, it's very flat in the room, it's very still in the room, like we need dynamic lighting. And from that point forward, I like tried to emphasize it. That being said,
I'm happy that I could contribute to
that being said, that one picture of you from that you were using as your profile picture for a while was one of my favorites.
That was a great party.
Insanely
you know what, that party also,
that came together last minute. It was supposed to be somewhere else, and there was some damage.
Supposed to be at 96 Morgan.
Oh yeah,
it might have been
the theme.
Might have been
so much going on.
100%.
Well, bro, that is
every step of the way.
100% the theme of like our company and business is like, it just, the show must go. You figure it out. You know, whatever the problem is, you find a solution.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of how I feel like each of these eras kind of went into each other, because there was that next era. If that was the prologue, then chapter 1 was this year of doing monthly parties. We tried to do each one in a different club spot, not so much DIY. We were figuring out how to do the recordings, how to do the lighting, what kind of names to invite, what worked, what didn't, you know, how many recorded sets to do, all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't, you know, people liked it. And I think people around the scene were like buzzy on it, like because they wanted to play it, because they wanted media, honestly, more than anything else. But in terms of fans, we were struggling to sell tickets for the most part. But then it was kind of exactly that. We like stumbled into this last minute literally like a couple days like day of, basically kind of thing of like, oh, do you guys want to do Diplo on the subway?
I was gonna say, I feel like that was the first one. I mean, yeah, that was actually definitely.
Yeah,
the
and
first
we
one.
had to be like, yeah, like I guess let's do this, sure. And like putting that together, literally basically day of. Mind you, he had a set that him and his girlfriend Michelle had a DJ set that night. I had a premiere for a short film I'd worked on. That was all happening that night, and then we're like, okay, let's go put together a pop up in the subway station at 4 a.m. I guess, with the biggest DJ in the world, and we did it. And somehow, by the grace of God, and like saved the SD card that I lost on the subway. By the way, almost that I dropped the main SD card that had the audio and like the main camera on it on the subway platform at Union Square. Almost lost the whole thing.
Legitimately.
Yeah, I was back on the way to
It's
Brooklyn.
our whole career.
I went, oh fuck, I'm missing one. I got out at 3rd Ave, whatever, sprinted back to Union Square. They're like cleaning up, they're sweeping. Found it flipped over, a little black SD card on the black gross ground. Save the whole thing. Anyway,
I did not know
yeah,
that.
we shoot duplicates now. But anyway, that was a thing. But you know, that was kind of what I feel like brought us into the next era of things, which was
it just getting the eyes on it? And,
it was yeah, that got obviously to this day probably the most attention of anything we did, but also kind of repackage what we were doing as like, oh, those guys do pop-ups, those guys do buzzy moments,
scrappy.
and yeah, and I think it came alongside that being the new thing, where it was like, all right, post-COVID, everyone kind of settled into what things are. People want these big buzzy moments. Every artist scene you would talk to was like, oh, how do I get my viral moment? How do I get my buzzy moment, my TikTok moment, whatever. So we had this kind of year of, whether it was for Raw Cuts sort of, or oftentimes just for other people for their own brands, being basically an agency for delivering on those moments. Because I think we thread like a nice middle ground where we were able to put together like a polished production, something that was going to look really good on camera, something that was going to sound good enough and be like real, not just like an RX2 in a turtle box like out on the subway platform, but something real, and taking that, but also not like so polished. I think we thread that middle ground really well. And we did a bunch of pop-ups. We did Will Clark in a laundromat. We did Blondish at Joe's Pizza.
Pocket.
We did one with Pocket at a vegan diner. It was a lot of these kind of storefront things, which I think really fit what that moment was in terms of what at least commercial to semi-commercial names we're looking for in the space. We did like a really fun pop-up with Noizu on a rooftop with like beautiful skyline. That was one. And then we were doing a lot of multicam too, because it wasn't at the point where it is now. Now everything's multicam. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go to. There's 800 cameras. Every shooter's walking around with 6 FX3s. That's ubiquitous. At the time, it wasn't. We were like one of the few teams that had a set of cameras and the know-how to like get that done. So I think we were able to really ride that wave, and more than anything, learn what we didn't love about it, which is that it felt like you would go to one of these parties, and to even call it a party is almost a stretch. It was more like going to check the box of having been there. That's what in 2024, that's what it kind of felt like every pop-up was. Oh, this is a cool idea. This is a cool thing. It's cool to say that you got to go there. It felt very like first year living in New York for a lot of people, like, oh, you're gonna go check the box of the big fun thing. But were they great parties? For the most part, not really. The Will Clark and the laundromat one was honestly pretty great. That was like a real party. And I think that's what taught us, like, because we just did that for his brand. And I think that's what taught us, like, there is a way to bridge this, because there's something very exciting about being in a place that isn't normally used in that way. And there's something very stale about being in the same clubs every weekend. And there's something also very exciting about being 360 and being in, seeing your favorite artists in a way that you wouldn't normally get to interact with them, smaller capacities than you would normally get to see them in. But in terms of it being, on the flip side, I think that the Joe's Pizza Blondish one is a perfect example of the opposite of that, which that was cool. That was great. But it was like 30 minutes before, like 25 minutes before it got shut down. Everyone's on the other side of a window. There's no way everyone's got their phones out. The sound wasn't great. Yeah. Like there's just all these things about it that made it not really a great party, and more of like, oh, I said I was there and I posted my Instagram story.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like there's, and this seems like this became like very much like something you were considering in 2024, but like this
Yeah.
tension between people wanting to experience this moment in service of a video
Yeah, exactly.
versus people wanting to experience the moment to experience the moment. Like at
Exactly.
the part, and I think there's always going to be a little bit of both, like
Yeah.
inevitably. But I think the thing that people loved about the early boiler rooms is it looked like a good fucking
Yeah.
party.
That's it.
Like
Yeah, and that's what I think the
like it was
first
FOMO.
year,
Like it made it like not in a
Exactly.
performative way, but just like no, that was just a good party and it happened to be
Exactly.
recorded.
Yeah, we also, as the pop-up trend was happening and we were doing all those, we were also doing our own kind of like club nights. And those, we were doing some, not as many that
Yeah,
spring and summer.
we kind of stopped that whole summer. We didn't do any.
We didn't do any that summer?
Didn't do a single one. And we were fully
Oh, I guess
focused on the
March
pop-up
was our
stuff.
last one.
March was the last one, and we'd already gone sparse at that point. And to come back to this show must go
I guess you're
on
right.
attitude,
Yeah, we didn't do a single one.
literally what I think set things off into the era that we're in now, and really figuring out what we
version
are.
3, I guess.
Yeah, chapter 3, if you
Chapter
will,
3.
was we had been working on a viral buzzy pop-up for Prospa. We'd been working on it for a while. They wanted like something with fashion, like in a store. It would have been very much in line with what we were doing at the time, which is an artist team or a PR team coming to us looking for a viral moment for their star, and having us deliver on that, and then deliver a media package on the back end. And it wasn't working out. We couldn't get budgets to work. We didn't really have the right spot. We'd been back and forth forever. And we're on a call, and we're literally texting each other on the side, like, I don't think it's gonna happen at this point. Like, should we just?
It was
should we-"
looking bleak.
It was looking really bleak. We're like a couple
Everything-
days out, by the way.
Everything we were pitching, they're like,
Yeah,
no,
we're like,
no.
should we just pitch them on like coming to 96 and doing a basement party with rock cuts, like as a brand? And we're texting, we're like, yeah, let's do it.
Like
Well,
let's just float it.
before we
like
even,
a proper Brooklyn underground.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like-
but before we even pitch it, we're like, it's over. So we might as well just, what if we
What
do it
is
with
there to
rock
lose?
cuts? Like, why not? Like, they're
Literally.
probably gonna say no, but like, let's just try it.
Yeah.
They've said no to everything else, so why not?
So we threw it out there, and we see him on call. Like, yeah, that might be cool.
Well, actually, what was funny enough was like, I guess we don't need to get into too heavy of the details, but more of the like media centric side from their teams were like, I don't know. But the actual artist teams were like,
Yeah.
oh, this looks sick.
Yeah.
They're like, this actually feels right. And I think once we heard those voices, we felt a lot more confident.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, actually, like, this is kind of what artists and artist teams actually want.
Yeah.
It's like authentic, real, proper experiences. And then that show came together, and as soon as it like as people were coming in and the music was bumping, we're like, oh, this is absolutely the right call.
And we're like, this is the thing.
And for them too, I mean, they were an act that they played Circo Loco with tech support, massive stage, 7,000 people, Halloween, packed to the gills. And they were probably like the, I don't know, 7th slot or something, 8th slot. That was their first play in New York. So like, cool for them, but also
To
like
have,
not
a
as
center
memorable.
stage moment. Yeah, exactly.
And then we did our pop-up with them like 3 days later. It's Prospa pop-up. And they're surrounded like arm over arm with true fans, sweating on their fans in this sweaty basement, 200 people, going from 7K to 200, free party it was a Wednesday night also.
Yeah.
And we were all looking around, they're looking around. We're all just like, oh, this format is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Is like getting people in a proper room. And yes, we can still do exciting locations, but it's about that moment, the authentic moment, a proper sound system where you can share it, where the music actually comes first. It's not the buzz or the clout or the video. I mean, that stuff.
Yeah, well,
does
it's
come out.
people, it's fans who want to dance and see their artists, not people who want to be seen seeing the artist. Like, and that's a different thing. Like,
Yeah. And I think that's what we've really realized across this last year, where what we're trying to build is a new, or a lesser seen version of what the dance music experience can be. Because I think that there's at this point at circa 2025, there's a million ways that can look. It can look like everything from, you know, a giant show at the Storehouse with 10,000 people, and you're on a huge dance floor with huge crazy production and booming sound, and it's very impersonal, but also you can feel the weight of a big night like that, to what a festival feels like, to, you know, what a more like commercial but smaller club can feel like, to what a bar can feel like, to what a place like Bossa Nova feels like, to what a place like Basement feels like,
Exactly.
to what any of these different things can feel like, to what an all night in a warehouse rave feels like. And these are all kind of part of a big ecosystem of different experiences you can have in dance music. I think what our proposition is if you're going to have, you know, we love a sesh as much as anyone else. We love a night where you can watch a DJ play for 6 hours and get in a groove. And honestly, on a night that we're not doing rock cuts, I think you're more likely to find us in that setting than anywhere else. But I think our proposition with what we're offering is like, if you're going to have these big moments, you're going to have this ecosystem that's built around stardom and built around the gravity of someone's productions translating to, you know, a live experience and what it means to be a star DJ and have that big moment on the dance floor, truly the headliner experience. Why not make it something that stands out and is really personal? And I think that that's what we've, done a pretty good job of this year, is creating these moments with stars where, like Erez said, you get to be arm in arm with your favorite DJ, having this huge explosive moment with the big drops, with the big moments, with the stuff that's worthy of sharing after the fact, in a world where everything's recorded now, trying to have something that's worth documenting and worth putting in the history books, but doing it in a really small, personal, intimate way where, you know, it's a layout of the room even that you don't see all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm sure the kind of artists that are like headlining her, you know, many kind of like years and just kind of like ahead of like where I am. But you know, even I'm someone who will like have those like thoughts of like, oh, what would be that like ideal dream moment, or like this new song I made, or like this new song I discovered that I like want to have. I want to share a moment with a crowd that can appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it feels like you have kind of like created that space where like, yeah, maybe the artist who is coming off of 5 shows at these big stages that feel kind of impersonal and like, you know, I'm sure like, yeah, some fun moments, but it's not like the feeling they necessarily want to feel, like getting to be in a place where it's like, oh, I'm literally surrounded by all these people that like love what I'm playing. Like, this is kind of the dream. I mean, like that's what you want. Like,
we hear this feedback all the time, especially from the bigger names that are coming in for more of these like big pop-up experiences. You know, they're playing 3-4 times a week, every week, especially in the summertime, very similar stages, very similar lineups, very similar crowds. And to have that moment where the walls are all brought down, it's not just, you know, the VIPs in the booth and, you know, it's not a million phones in your face and you aren't literally 100 meters away from the closest fan. Those are the, to be honest, those are the videos that blow my mind. Is like the TM behind the booth, and you see literally like you can't even make out the people in the front row, let alone anything else. That's the setup though, kind of.
It's almost like it's gotten to a point like some of our shows, we see these acts that are used to playing 10K plus, and we bring them into the pit. And you could kind of, you kind of see like at moments we've seen acts that like we're looking at them as literally as I like walk them to the booth and they're just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, like I'm not used to being around.
Yes, everyone's like banging the table. They're like, yeah. And because also now that like we've kind of built structurally these like elevated platforms and surfaces, usually on the left and right and behind the booth. It's literally like a pit. Like it's this college.
Yeah, you saw it the other day.
I mean, how did that feel for you? Like for the parallel?
Amazing. No, it felt great.
It's exciting, right?
It's easier to feel the energy from people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier to like, cause yes, I feel like when you're on the same level as everyone, which I mean is much preferred versus being elevated above people like that. I fucking hate. But like, yeah, it can just be hard to, I mean, you can't see that far out. You can't see if people are really enjoying or kind of like reacting to the music. But in this way, yeah, if it's a pit and you have everyone kind of like around you, it's like, yeah, you're getting the full experience of people enjoying and dancing to your music. I mean,
and this is a criticism that I've seen sometimes that you know, of course, like anyone else, like we get some criticisms and feedback on different things, and there are many that I've agreed with and taken to heart and learned from. But one that we get occasionally that I don't necessarily fully believe in is you know, I think that there's a perception sometimes that with the 360 setup, and especially when you also have the cameras there, where it's like, oh, this is being done for content. This is you know, this is like a TikTok maneuver. This isn't real dance music culture. This isn't, you know, yada yada, the classics. Um, that's actually something that I have not felt in the slightest. Even if the cameras were turned off, even if there are no cameras, I would still be for this kind of party and the kind of artists that we're booking for. I would 100% vouch for the exact same layout and exact same setup because I think it's unbelievably exciting. And I think it is a absolutely worthwhile version of the dance music experience. That's not to say that it isn't equally valid to have a dark room where you can't even see the DJ and they're kind of in the back. And but as you've seen, having played it now a bunch of times, I think the way that you're able to play off the crowd and the crowd's able to play off you is really thrilling and really, really engaging. And taking myself out of being an organizer as a fan, like I feel that energy when I'm back there and that you just cannot have if there's a separation. You cannot have that. And I see it in other videos. I see it when I'm at other shows. So that's a thing that I've almost learned is, you know, we talk a lot about no phones, no VIP. I think the layout of the room that we've established is maybe the biggest contribution that we're having right now to what's going on because it's just, I don't know, it's just really fun.
Yeah. I mean, and now you guys are able to like take the next step towards like fully achieving the vision.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you want to share some more details, I mean, these guys just are kind of in the process of rolling out a space for raw cuts, which is, I mean, it felt almost inevitable, or at least like, I mean, as a fan and someone also who participates, you know, something I would have like hoped for. And it allows you though to take the next step in creativity because you are limited by the venues you were having to work with. There are certain things you couldn't change, certain things that were just part of the rules of that house, and now you get to kind of create your own. And like, is that changing the vision? Is that change? What else are you considering? I mean, now you are able to have the particular setup you want all the time. Like there's a lot.
This was the #1 coked out guy at the afters plug, by the way, for the past year. Dude, gotta start a club.
True. We got a lot of that. And I think there was there was definitely some hesitancy.
What were some of the hesitation?
Well, it's new.
I mean, there's understandably a lot into opening your own space, but
New York is, I think, one of the best cities in the world for dance music. And especially in the last year, we've seen a lot of clubs opening, especially like in our sound profile.
Even the last 6 months.
Last 6 months, right?
The last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and like that is happening simultaneous to like the trend in dance music now becoming the most popular in the States, and more kids and like that next gen really adopting this sound, and like DJs now moving into that like superstar realm where it used to be rappers and pop stars. Now it's like DJs. And it's crazy. Like I look at college campuses and they're all spinning, they're DJing and like listening to Pausa and like John Summit. And that was not really the case so much. I mean, we had Big Room and Chainsmokers and all that.
But that's what that was.
But it was, but it was still kind of like peripheral, you know? And now it's very different. So all that trend is happening, and there's a lot of spaces in New York. But it's tough, and you know, there's a lot of competition, and I think what has always kind of felt central to Raw Cuts is that we're always kind of like providing something new and jumping around. And now, I mean, as we've kind of discussed, like doing the pop-ups, and like we're known for that and circulating around town. So we've always had a home base. Like 96 Morgan in many ways was our home base for, I don't even know how year and a half, 2 years or something.
So I go that far from there.
Yeah. So I think the hesitancy was like, you know,
don't dox the spot.
How are we gonna? are we going to jump in and like really open a spot? Like, what are we going to add that's new? Like, we love working with some of our partners. You know, we've had great shows at a lot of different spots. But again, kind of like any of our growth moments in the past, push comes to shove and something goes wrong, or you get pushed out of your nest,
Mm.
right? And for the studio, it was water damage, and we had no choice but to leave and figure out how to do multicam and figure out how to run a party and run the media. And it was the best thing that ever happened to us. And similarly, at 96 Morgan, the ownership changed in certain ways and they went a different direction with what they were trying to do. And a new team came in and push came to shove. And we were like, you know what? We love our partners. New York is a very competitive market and there's a lot of clubs opening up, but we no longer have a home base and we need one. And even with our partners, as much as we love them, when in any sort of partnership, any collaboration, there's a certain amount of compromise.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have complete creative freedom, complete financial freedom even, right? And so all these kind of factors, and to his credit, Cal sat me down
Okay.
and for I don't know, a couple hours, he's like, we need to do this. And
So
you know,
you're the one that took convincing.
oh yeah, yeah. And
That's a very tamed, calm version of
Yeah. What
was
really
actually
happened,
pitching it.
Cal?
yeah.
I was hot. I was passionate. I was impassioned about this for sure.
Mhm.
I think at one point you asked me, you're like, what is this? Has this always been your dream to open a venue? And honestly, at the time I was like, no, but it's like cool. And then we did it one time. And I was like, yeah, I think so. Actually, this is awesome.
Well, that was a thing. And like I said, I mean, that's always kind of been a theme of this project and a theme really of like success in any industry or any field is that you have to grow. You have to get pushed out of your comfort zone. And especially when things get challenging and when you see competition, you need to just go for it and do it as hard as you possibly can. Because then finally we made the decision, okay, we're going to do this. We have this warehouse option that we got connected to actually through the 96 Morgan people.
Mhm.
So funny enough how things work out. But once we made that decision of we're going to go for it, we're like, we're not just going to put speakers in the space.
Yeah.
We have to fucking make it so seriously good. Cause at this point, like our attention to detail and our brand and our reputation is all that experience, that everything is dialed in, that everything is cared for, everything is special, everything is intentional.
Yeah.
So we went balls to the wall for what now, I guess saying it back sounds like, you know, short time, but for like
Yeah.
a week, just completely transforming this space
Yeah.
that had been a fabrication studio to be everything we really wanted it to be.
Yeah. Picture my excitement of having to go spending the past year basically every week going into a new place with like 3 hours to set up and
Yeah.
figure
where you're gonna
out
put this. how,
exactly
like-
figure out where everything's going to go, figure out what is already there, what it is. Most of the time we go into places and like we talked about, this isn't the standard way that parties come into spaces. Usually it's here's the booth, you're good to go, your backline's set up, you plug in, you know, your opener gets there at doors and you're good to go. Maybe you throw up a neon sign, maybe you have some requests for lighting, but it's I think for most parties or maybe you're doing some decorations or whatever, but I think for most parties there isn't like a structural element to it, whereas we're coming in and we're saying, yo, this is great, but like we actually need to move everything
Oh, your
around.
table? Forget your
Yeah. Actually, you're gonna need to find a place to put that because we're bringing our own table, and you're gonna need to figure out how to retune the sound in a way that you haven't before. XYZ, and I think it's understandably a lot.
ladders and tables. And
Yeah, and when you got people climbing from the rafters and like, what the hell is going on? Like, understandably, I think that's a lot for a lot of teams, and to not have to do that and to be doing it in a way where it feels like instead of doing it every week and tearing it down, we're actually building up into something greater where we can iterate on it from week to week and leave everything there.
Like
has
what's
been-
working, what's not, and then
Yeah.
it's easier to actually iterate and
Yeah.
recreate the next week or the next
Yeah.
3 weeks, whatever.
Also, like, I think for me, it was when we did our first, like, Cal put up the lights and we turned the sound system on.
Mhm.
This is after like 4 days of basically living
Yeah.
everything but sleeping at this warehouse for like 4 days. We were like ordering seamless pizza. And once the lights came off, the main lights and the like colored lights went on, and Ariel, who's on our team, starts just like shredding tunes, and we get the haze going.
Yeah.
We didn't even say anything to each other. We were truly silent, looking around for like I'm not kidding, maybe like 7 or 8 minutes, just like.
Yeah. There's a fulfillment that comes from like a physical space that you honestly can't. I mean, for me personally, like I'm coming from like, again, imagery and things that are like kind of ethereal in that way of like, oh, you're photographing something that happened, whether it's for, moving images or stills, but you're photographing something that happened and then it's gone forever aside from these two-dimensional images that you have of it. Into now, most of my kind of like creative energy goes into the project and the events more so even than, of course, there's the recordings and everything, but in my headspace, I'd almost feel secondary to like getting more and more tangible in that way to now being like fully tangible of like a literal space and transforming a space and seeing what it feels like to invite people into that versus just, a space that exists for a moment. And I'm pretty fixed on it. And this isn't to say that we're not continuing to do pop-ups and stuff in other places. As maybe we're entering chapter 4, if you will. It was, which actually kind of tracks, a year each of we were backed into a corner. The show had to go on. Time to open up this new space and take that leap. And, I think what we're finding is by doing this, it's actually freeing us up to do some of the other places that we've been trying to go, which is that now we can actually spend most of our time working on stuff in other cities, stuff in other countries, these big high profile pop-ups in New York that are going to be in the next year that are going to be at like very, very, very special locations.
Yes.
We can actually spend most of our week doing that because we're not grinding every single week for what's going to be, where we would have done the show that we did last week. Normally that the overhaul to make that happen would have been mind blowing and it would have taken all of our energy for at least a week, if not a month. And to take that off the table now and just be like, here we go. Here's the spot. We can transform it the ways that we need to, but it's so much less stress and we can focus on these other things now. So, we're going to continue to, if not increase the amount that we're doing, these plays outside of the warehouse, outside of our space, but
you have a home base.
We have a home base to take the pressure off of the stuff that was a drag on our time, honestly, beforehand, to have to move around so much.
And Cal, you mentioned, having a kind of new opportunity to kind of have a creative vision and to get to like express yourself creatively. Like obviously this is a creative expression for you guys. I know you maybe also have a bit of a life outside of this. I know this is probably taking up like, 90% of your time.
Debate.
Like I know like, film and cinematography is obviously like something you have a passion for beyond like what it means for raw cuts. So I guess like why is Trash Humpers like your favorite film?
Wow, what a deep cut. All right, Trash Humpers is sitting at a 4.5 out of 5 stars on my Letterboxd right now. Are you familiar?
I'm not.
Harmony Korine, who you may know from Spring Breakers. He has an up-and-coming film called Baby Invasion that you may have heard of also. Anyway, it's I guess you would call it an experimental film where you follow 3 people in pretty disturbed, like old people masks as they kind of they adventure around the American South, going to largely underprivileged areas of the rural South, and they hump trash. They they get into some antics, and they really touch on parts of humanity that you don't often see on camera. Think the degree of fictionality of like a Borat, where there's some fictional elements, but certainly a lot of real people that they're just stumbling into and having these interactions with that really give it its heart. It's not going to be for everybody. for sure.
What do you love
Sean.
about it?
What do I love about it? I'm definitely fascinated by the fringes of society, by understanding and empathizing with people who have kind of found themselves at whatever point in their lives this occurs in headspaces that don't necessarily align with the norm or align with society. And I think that this is an interesting, a fascinating, really look into that world, and one that if you like that kind of thing, you should definitely check out. 4.5 stars on Letterboxd.
Trash humpers.
Trash Humpers.
Tune in tonight.
Also, you can't find it anywhere. I just realized I have a bootleg.
It's illegal in 45
Yeah,
countries.
I have a bootleg version on a hard drive. So
Yeah, send me
shoot me a DM. And
Yeah, if anyone needs it,
yeah,
you have your guy.
I'll shoot you a pitch on the DMs.
yeah, let me know.
Yeah. And then you happen to be quite the sandwich enthusiast. I've heard.
Yes.
Do you I mean, are you someone who will like get into the art of like making sandwiches at home and doing all that? Or are you more like, I'm gonna go find the like 10 best sandwiches in New York? Like what does that practice look like for you? I know there's a lot of sandwich lovers out there and there's a lot of debate.
Yes. Well, James, I'm glad you asked. I love sandwiches.
Great.
That's about it. No, I've truly always loved them. I thought you were gonna ask. I used to have a sandwich Instagram that I would review sandwich spots.
Say more.
Yes, in fact, I made a whole vlog about.
Okay, Michelle failed
But-
me.
She didn't even tell. Oh, I thought she sent you the video. I was like, we're about to watch this.
No.
Did you know about? Yeah, of course I sent this to you because I referenced it one time
Yeah.
and you were like, dude, I love them. And I grew up in Croton Hudson in Westchester. There was a deli called LaMonica's Deli. It unfortunately closed due to health code violations, which
So you know it's good.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think they did something about like the sauce, the panini press. I don't think they would ever clean, but that's what resulted in like the best pastrami you've ever fucking had. And so at a young age, I was always accustomed to these like banging sandwiches. The Giovanni was the go-to. Pastrami, grilled onions, chipotle mayo on a pressed panini, unreal. And so growing up in Westchester, there's a lot of great delis out there. Rocky's in Millwood. There's a great one, Bonamici in Scarsdale. As a kid, like in high school, when people got their driver's licenses, that's all we would do. We would just drive around, get sandwiches, late night, daytime, whatever. And then when I moved to New York,
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I mean, I like told me your favorite raw cut in Trash Humpers. Like, what are your favorite cold cuts, hot cuts? Like, what do you
dude, you're good.
raw cuts?
Yeah.
Give it
This
to
is
me.
really good.
I need like
I've like spots.
I need a top three.
I've got a good thing for you to share. What's your breakfast sandwich order?
Oh,
Oh yeah, it's
is
a
wrong content.
it's a monstrosity.
oh no.
Shoot, sorry. So if I'm really like hungry or you're quite hungover, long night. Actually, you know what? I got this from this spot, Rocky's in Millwood. This is what inspired this, but it's a beast. I mean, there's a couple ways to cut it, but you can get on a roll. You get chicken cutlet. You can choose your cheese. I go pepper jack.
I want to remind the
pepper
audience
jack. I'm a
this is a
pepper jacker.
breakfast sandwich
Yeah, yeah.
that he's describing.
Well,
Shake-
breakfast at 2 p.m. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. You're hungover. You've been out all night. Chicken cutlet, pepper jack, fried eggs, hash brown, chipotle mayo. You can go avocado if you roll like that, and then that's it. You're good to go. You could do lettuce, tomato also if you really want to get crazy, but I keep that off. Do avocado. You're good to go. It's fantastic.
Mind you, the first time he introduced me to this, it was we were at his parents' house in Westchester County. I got off the train. We went to a deli. It was not 2 p.m. It was like 10:30.
Oh, this is Roosters.
Yeah, it was like 10:30 a.m. and he busts out that order, and I was like,
Fuck
all right,
it.
send it. Let's do it.
It was good though.
Yeah,
huh?
it's good. It's
Yeah,
really
it's
good.
fire.
Yeah.
It's a lot of food though on a roll, like or on a
Yeah.
or you're getting on a roll. Okay.
You're getting on a roll, but think about it. Like you might eat that whole plate.
That's a lot
If
on
you're
a that's
sitting
a
down.
lot for a roll.
Yeah, I mean it's
You get
It's
on a-
structurally
Are
questionable.
you
yeah.
have you ever
Hero.
He's a
Is that too
sloppy
much?
guy.
I'm a sloppy guy. What are you gonna do?
Okay. I was
I
like
got yolk running out, but it's fantastic. And so, yeah, I made this video during COVID. that was reviewing sandwiches all around Westchester. You can check it out. We'll link it right here. But then when I moved to the city, I started discovering spots out here.
Where should we eat sandwiches?
Anthony and Sons is great in East Williamsburg. But honestly, you know what? Your average bodega,
I know
it can typically get it done.
It really sets the bar pretty high.
Yeah.
As someone like from San Francisco who just didn't, I mean, there are great places to get sandwiches, but you don't have a fucking corner store like, every other block.
Dude,
where you can get like a really, at least 7, 8 out of 10 sandwich. Like that's crazy.
Well, there's a spot on Morgan. Wait, is that Morgan? Elmo's? It's Morgan, right?
Yeah, Morgan and Grattan.
Morgan and Grattan, Elmo's. It's our go-to bodega, and
24 hours.
We love them. They love us. And one of my favorite memories from there was after a raw cut. We typically go there after raw cuts. It's down the street from 96 Morgan. Is we get there around like, I don't know, 4:30, 5 a.m. We walk in, we just did a whole night. And on the TV in the bodega, they're playing a raw cut set. They're playing Locklead.
What?
Yeah, they rip raw cut sets. They love raw cuts.
And we're like, yo, those are the boys. And then we started dancing instantly. We're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then now they're tuned in, and every time we walk in, they're like, oh, raw cuts. They know about the warehouse too.
Yeah.
When I walked in, I didn't even know they knew.
I'm trying to get them over there.
I walked in like last week, and he's like, yo, so how's the new spot? I'm like, how do you know? Like, that's crazy. But they're the best, man, and great sandwiches too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we'll have to go after.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to SF this weekend.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. I will definitely give you plenty of recs.
Good.
So you had your sandwich Instagram. You had Denny's.com.
Whoa, dude, you're coming out.
Oh, dude.
Swing it.
Yeah, I had Denny's.com. Denny's.com is Denny's dot, no, Denny's.com was a COVID era journey for me.
That's when we all just did stupid shit.
Yeah, well, it was great. It was
when I made this video.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how else are you gonna survive something like that? You got to have a passion, because there wasn't much else going on. But we would make these like really cinematic cooking videos they were just food porn and like to lo-fi beats. And it was a vibe. Some really iconic dishes came out of that era. Some of my go-to date night staples to this day.
You cook for dates like that?
Sometimes. From time to time.
What you got to do? You got to date with Cal.
I don't know.
That's the real deep cut.
Yeah, but some absolute bangers on that account. If you want to look it up, Denny's.com. People don't know. Nobody here knows that I can do it in the kitchen.
Well, I'm about to. If you want to have me over for a date,
dude, come on over.
Hey,
come on over. Chevy, go through the account, see what you want made. Automatic with all those.
I'm so down.
Yeah.
And then maybe if you're nice to him, he'll make you a sandwich too.
Dude, what else you got? Bring these deep cuts.
No, I mean, I feel like I wanna spare you guys any more of these kind of.
No, this is great, dude.
Great.
This is good research. Yeah, come on.
No, I feel like it's getting laid out. I think the kids are tired.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to ask though, also if if I were to like pick a color for a playlist, like what should I be? What should I choose on my ride home tonight?
It is getting laid out, and the kids are getting sleepy. I have just the playlist for you. You can check out for sleep time. I'd go blue.
Okay.
I'd stay away from yellow and orange. Those are hype.
I'd assume.
Red. You don't want that.
What the fuck is that?
You don't want that right now. Trust. Gold, not for sleep, for party.
So most of them are for party.
Well, it depends on the party.
Right.
But to give you context, I am an avid playlist maker and
a curator. I've seen them.
A curator.
You're a curator?
Yes. Well, some might say. And I had, I guess it was probably 6 or 7 of the colored playlists that were all curated based on color.
That's actually insane considering I literally fired off a whole plan this week of how the first 7 Raw Cuts Records releases are all going to be colors.
Well, is there any relation?
Actually, no, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that was more so my idea.
But
So
I feel like color and like vibe and energy can always
Yeah.
kind of go. And like
Yeah,
with
whether
these
it's
ones,
lighting of a space, whether I mean it does bring up stuff.
Yeah.
It was clear to me when you were
It's like
talking
emotion.
about yellow or red. It's like, yeah, that's not for your.
the interesting ones really are like green and blue and purple because like you can kind of go any direction. I think it's more obvious that like red, yellow, orange is like energy.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's why orange is my favorite color. It's because it just like it stands out. It's bright and it's always associated with like danger, right? Traffic cones or like poison signs. And yeah, because it stands out. It's like strong like that. So, you know, to tie it to Raw Cuts also, like that's our secondary color. I mean, I guess you might not see it as often because we're always lighting things differently and our flyers are always
Yellow?
colored. Orange.
I think orange is our primary. No?
Well, I think black, gray, grayscale,
Sure.
like we do more kind of
Sure.
wash
Yeah,
out.
if you have a color,
if you have a color, it's orange.
Yeah, it's orange.
Yeah, because it's just it's strong. It demands
Yeah.
attention, and it stands out. And people are afraid of it. People don't want to use orange in anything.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always want to go blue. They want to play it safe. Think like every social media brand
Yeah.
is.
You don't
blue.
see orange
It's
everywhere.
calm.
Yeah.
Orange
And that's
breaks
why that was our first release. Was I leaned into the orange.
Mm.
But
It's the second, right?
I think you're hearing it here first. I think the first 7 will all be the 7.
Yeah. Well, this is a great
Rainbow
This
colors.
is a great kind of transition to. I'd love to kind of end on anything.
Yeah.
That's like in the pipeline. Obviously, there's some more releases.
Oh, boy.
You started a record label.
Yeah.
You have parties coming up.
When's this going to be coming out, you think?
4-6 weeks.
4-6 weeks.
6
So-
weeks probably.
So like early Jan, probably. Hopefully we will have done a couple really exciting things right prior to this.
Yeah. Let's imagine. Okay.
yeah.
So,
But just in case, I guess we probably shouldn't talk about that. I think this next year, the record label is definitely something to pay attention to. You know, we talk about all the time that, you know, I think everything that we're doing with Raw Cuts can feel like a bit of a journey and a pipeline and bringing people in and an invitation to fans at all different points in their dance music journeys and careers to come together and to take that next step deeper into a deeper appreciation, into a deeper palette of, you know, of taste and what the music can mean both to you on like an ethereal level and also on a social and philosophical level. But I think we both really see the label and everything that Will's doing there, as well as kind of the destination, at least musically, of what we're trying to do. So I think if you're asking yourself what it is that we're inspired by and, you know, pushing musically, it's you'll find it on the label. And I think right around when this will be coming out, I think our second release should be dropping, with the third closely to follow. You know, a series of VAs that we'll be posting throughout at least the first part of next year before seeing what else could happen with the label. I don't want to get too specific about the shows and that
That stuff coming.
I think show-wise, I think it's going to be just a balance of like the home base selector. Who do we think is really cool that you should start paying attention to?
Yeah.
Or cross-pollinating some of the parts of our community that come to Raw Cuts because of the buzzier big names. But we really want to do more to introduce them to some of the more underground acts. So there's some of those is what I would call some of those like home-based shows. Think like what we just did with Laidlaw, Julie and Anthony. That's like kind of the perfect example of acts that would make you excited. Like if you know Chris Dussy and you're a Josh Baker Rossi fan and you came to us because of those pop-ups.
Like you will
I'm sure-
also dig these guys.
Yeah, and then you
Probably
come to
haven't-
see them
you
at
might
Raw
have-
Cuts.
yeah.
Even though maybe you like have heard of them around, that's like exactly what we're trying to do. So like a lot of those types of shows. And then in addition, I mean, Cal alluded to it earlier of like iconic artists,
Yeah.
iconic locations that many of them we had been in conversations with last summer, but for one reason or another could not get it done because of timeline, because we were still figuring ourselves out. Now we have, instead of 6 days to figure these things out, we have 6 months.
Yeah.
And we learned, I mean, maybe next time that we're on this podcast, we could tell you some of these horror stories, but really learning moments of like, when you get to a certain level of like trying to accomplish certain things, it doesn't happen like, let's just bring some speakers into a Joe's Pizza because
Right.
Blondish is down.
Yeah.
You need to work.
Maybe a certain island doesn't let you do your thing.
God forbid.
Exactly. And you gotta
That's
work.
real shit. I mean,
Yeah, you gotta work. We're at a size and we're operating with some of these artists and teams that like you have to work with the city, you have to work with permits, you have to work with sponsors, and real things are on the line. But now, I mean, because of some, I wouldn't even call them mistakes, but just lessons, we
Yeah.
know that these things take time, and so now we're planning a lot of those
like
plays
way
out.
farther in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For everything that you saw us do last year, there were probably 3 others that got to genuinely the 99-yard line and then like week of didn't pan out, and the amount of time that went into those. Yeah, like Erez said, I wouldn't call it a mistake. We learned a lot, but we're trying to do less of that, do more of this with some lead time. I think definitely also I plan on my my Delta Sky Miles account getting some
I
juice.
just got
next year.
upgraded to silver, actually.
I did too.
Well,
I did too. Yeah, nice.
Oh, yeah.
So we're on our
That's a
way.
good sign.
But I think you'll be seeing us a lot more in other cities, other countries next year as well.
But still, that said, don't leave New York this
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Oh yeah.
And stuff that I think we're passionate about, because it's not just like buzzy and acts that are like exciting and big. It's like genuinely like culturally
Yeah.
exciting and relevant, because that's ultimately where a lot of these ideas start, is what is a concept that's going to actually matter to the world, not just like house music fans, but to the city. How can
Yeah.
we be a part of that conversation where dance music and house music is looked upon with favor, and like the people who aren't familiar with dance music can be really proud
Yeah.
of this growth.
Or maybe
And you-
people who
and-
used to be, and you have like an intergenerational kind of part, you know, like
Exactly.
things where it's like you
100%.
can tell a story and like,
And I think this is actually a great place to end. Is kind of the core of what it is that we're trying to do and what we think is important right now, especially in North America, is just feeling like we were talking about earlier, dance music has, I think, turned the corner to being the thing. I think no matter what age you are, this is now taken the top spot as the genre of music that people are looking to as the thing right now. And I think that that's a very precarious place. I think it could fall into the hands of forces that want to capitalize on that, and use it to drive profits and to become something that it isn't at its core. Or it could, continue to be, at least at, that seed, that kernel at the center of it, what it was always intended to be. Because, I think we often talk about dance music as having a history that goes back to the 70s, maybe to disco, and evolving from there. But really, dance music is something that goes back to the start of humanity and civilization. Like I talk about all the time, this is the drum circle, this is ritual, this is collective introspection, and something that I think is inherent to the human experience and goes well beyond the bounds of club culture or what's been happening over the last 40 years. So I think it's a beautiful opportunity for us, all of us, anyone who's involved in this at any level, to nurture that and to have it have a positive impact on everything that's going on in a very tumultuous time in the world. And I'm just really excited to be a part of that in the way that we are.
and thank you guys so much for everything that you contribute to the scene here in New York. Like, honestly, I think it's been very defining of my like few years here in New York, and I think a lot of people would be able to say the same. And I think it's very special to imagine like what you're continuing to build and the community you're bringing. I mean, you step into one of your parties and it's like, I feel like I've especially felt this the last couple, and I'm just like, I'm seeing some familiar faces. I'm seeing a lot of people that just like are like really just like so excited to be there, and I think it's like a real testament to what you guys are building. So thank you guys.
So thank you.
Well, thanks for having us. It's amazing to be here and just awesome to see your journey. And when we were talking about bringing on residents, I think actually before we even spoke about bringing on residents, we would
You're like, I guess he's not a 55-year-old old.
Yeah.
that's a whole other
House
story.
producer.
Did
Seriously,
you know that? I think I told you this.
I thought the same thing.
We've never talked about this then, or have we?
100% we have.
We have?
Yeah, at least we have.
Well, I thought he was like a 50-year-old old head.
Yeah,
'Cause I would listen to his Rob Soul show. I'm like, oh, this is like, he must be Danny T's age. And then drove on.
Exactly.
And then I go see him play at Zone 1. Aaron's like, oh yeah, that's James Deere. I'm like, no, that's his son, right? I was like, oh, you're dope. And but what I was to say is like, even before we spoke about like, oh, we should bring on Raw Cuts residents, we're always like, oh, like Juke, he's our go-to resident, go-to person, and we can always trust you. And being in this position where we can put on the people that we really believe in and want to help build as much as we can and give back and give opportunities, whether it's like actually giving you a slot or our resident slots, or just like connecting the dots or getting people together in a green room. Like you're that guy, man.
Yeah.
We're really appreciative for everything that you've brought to us and to this brand. So let's just continue to build and move on into the future and build.
Oh, this is all love. All right. Love you guys.
Love
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
you.